I was listening to a preacher recently who I highly respect, and he mentioned a movie that he had seen years ago and called Wag the Dog. I had never seen that movie, but he was talking about how you want to know what's going on, how things are done on the news with the media and all that. He says that movie explains it all, how they make up so much stuff, but as long as people see it on TV, it must be the truth because it's on TV. He wasn't trying to shout out the movie. He wasn't encouraging his audience, hey, you've got to watch this movie. He wasn't doing that. But I could totally see it, that there's probably a bunch of religious spirits out there that are watching and saying, maybe I should say a religious soul. Spirit's so much easier, but people have that religious soul, and a religious mind. And they might have Christ in their spirit, but their minds are all about religion and getting angry. He just encouraged us to watch a movie with Robert De Niro and Dustin Hoffman. Doesn't he know that those actors are blah, 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 blah. And no, he wasn't saying that at all. It takes a mature person, a spiritually mature person, to understand what somebody's trying to share and come across with. I've dealt with this before. I mentioned a preacher a while back that I had heard preaching the gospel of grace, and I was talking about how in 2013 I heard this person for the first time, and I never heard the gospel of grace before. I came out of Jehovah's Witnesses. I had never heard the gospel of grace, but because I mentioned this preacher's name, a bunch of YouTubers got so upset and started bashing on me, right? And they are what they call themselves grace preachers, but they were just so offended. And it's amazing how hypersensitive people can be, especially unfortunately in the Christian community, you guys. It's truth. So if you are hypersensitive in any way, or if you're very sensitive, you might not want to watch this, because I'm going to share something. Yesterday I was at work. I'm just in the parking lot right now. I just wanted to come out here and share this with you real quick. This guy, I was cutting his hair. I'm a hairstylist for a living, so I'm cutting this guy's hair, and he says to me, he says, hey, did you hear the Joe Rogan podcast on Spotify? He says he interviewed this woman named Yeonmi, YEONMI, I believe it's spelled Yeonmi Park, P-A-R-K, or Parks, P-A-R-K-S perhaps, but I think it's Yeonmi Park. But anyway, I'll put her name in the description box, and I'll type it out right. She's a woman from North Korea. I said, no, I didn't hear that. And he says, he says, he started talking about her story. And he says, I don't want to spoil it, but you got to listen to it. It's just heartbreaking, and it's hard to listen to. So I'm like, okay. So because of what he said, I'm like, that might be pretty interesting to listen to. Now, this is where the hypersensitive people get mad, because you just said Joe Rogan. Are you suggesting that we all subscribe to his podcast and listen to everything he does and support his lifestyle and his beliefs and his political and all that stuff? That's the religious minds that are saying that. You see that? I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying that at all. But this man gave this woman a platform to speak on. I don't hear my favorite Christian or your favorite Christian YouTuber giving her a platform to speak on. This man did, and it's a high risk that he took to have her on his show, and here's why. She's from North Korea. And there's ties with North Korea and other countries that I won't mention, that YouTube, if you talk about these guys, or even Disney, you can't do that because there's money involved with these other countries. So how dare anybody even speak about them? So anyway, Joe Rogan took a huge risk having her on his platform, and I listened to it, and it was the most heartbreaking, terrifying. I've never heard anything like it, and I had no clue that this was happening in North Korea at all. And it breaks my heart, because I'm like, man, I could have been praying for these people. I can't believe what they are going through. And this woman isn't just sharing her story. She's sharing a bunch of people's stories, but she just so happened to grow up there and escaped. And it's sad, because in one of the interviews, I listened to her on Joe Rogan, and then there was also a man named Jordan Peterson that they had mentioned during this podcast interview, that she had actually been interviewed by Jordan Peterson before she got interviewed by Joe Rogan. And so I looked up Jordan Peterson and Yeonmi Parks, and I'll put the link in the description box, and I'll type in what podcast Joe Rogan, the number on Spotify that he interviewed her. And if you have Spotify, you can go to it. And like I said, if you're sensitive and you're upset that I mentioned a man, how can you mention a man? He's not a Christian. He's not a believer. Hey, listen, I'm just saying he gave her a platform, and that's it. And same with Jordan Peterson. I don't know much about him or Joe Rogan, honestly, personally, but very interesting interviews, and I applaud them for having the courage, the boldness to actually let her share her testimony. And but anyway, I mean, when she did finally trying to get out of North Korea, there were these Christian missionaries, and talk about people that just shamed her about some things that she had to go through in her life. It's so sad. And telling her, if you want our help, you got to become Christian, you got to read the Bible, and you got to fast. And this girl, she comes from a place where people are starving to death, and that's their normal. Seeing dead bodies everywhere, seeing people suffering to death, seeing rats eating people that are alive, eating their eyeballs out and such, seeing people crying out for help, please, do you have any food? This young teenager she saw when she was a young girl, with his intestines hanging out of his body, and he was still alive, and begging for something to eat. This was her normal life. This was her norm, you guys. And these Christian missionaries are telling her she needs to fast to get God's approval, when she had been starving all her life. She said she never even knew what a full stomach meant. She was used to searching for bugs. Bugs were their number one food source. Having a bug to eat once in a great while, or picking a flower and eating it, or ripping bark off of a tree and chewing on it, trying to get sustenance. Anyway, it's for a very mature audience. And the reason I want to share this is because I'm heartbroken, and I want to pray as much as I can for these people in North Korea, even their leadership. And because the only thing that can really change people's hearts is first getting the Spirit of Christ in you. And once that Spirit takes root, then your heart and your mind, your soul can start to change and transform. I've seen it happen. There's so many testimonies of people that used to be gangsters and killing people, heartlessly killing, and then they receive Christ in their life and his love and forgiveness, and it changes, it transforms them. So testimony's powerful. This woman, it makes me never want to complain about my life again. I boo-hoo sometimes about my age and how I hardly make any money, and I can't even afford to live on my own. I have roommates. I'm almost 50 years old, and I still have roommates because I can't afford a place of my own. And and then I talk to you guys. I've even shared things about the persecution that I've called persecution. It is persecution, but compared to her, I haven't gone through nothing, man. Leaving the Jehovah's Witnesses, getting shunned, shamed, having defamation of character that they did to me, all this stuff, yeah, it was difficult to go through. And then this whole thing at work, if you don't get the what in your arm, you got to wear a mask. If you don't get the what that they're commanding everybody to take here in Southern California, we're going to shun you, we're going to shame you. I mean, they've called me a killer. They said I don't care about people's lives, all this stuff, and even my coworkers at work and people that come in, it's crazy. And I've been like, hell, this is persecution. But then when I hear this woman's story, I'm like, oh my goodness, Lord. And I started praising him and thanking him for what I do have in life. I just couldn't. If this woman could trade spots with me when she was younger and live this life that I have, she would say, dude, you live like a king and you don't even know it. It's so easy to look at all the negative and not see the blessings. But anyway, yeah, we think we have it bad. Oh my goodness, you guys. Oh my God. Anyway, I'm just going to share that with you. Once again, I am not shouting out or recommending to subscribe to these people's channels. I am not saying listen to everything and agree with them now. There's going to be hypersensitive people that do like that. That's fine. Those are the religious minds. But those that are mature enough, I'm going to share a link to the Jordan Peterson, and then I'll type in the Joe Rogan podcast. And you do what you want with it. You do what you want. I'm not suggesting watch other stuff or believe it the same way as them or anything like that, or subscribe. I'm just saying, if you want to hear something that's real and it's really heartbreaking and it will let you know what to pray for, then I will urge you to listen to this woman's testimony. And it's both videos are pretty long, so it might take some time, but it was well worth it. Anyway, love you guys. God bless you all, and I'll see you in the next video.